How are we doing today, everybody in the In Soccer We Trust YouTube family? Because I might still be in a little bit of shock, but me, Heath, and Charlie are here to discuss all of our thoughts 24 hours after the roster has dropped, and it's all popping off. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it.
Yeah, so what is up, everybody, and welcome to Boris Milutinovich's favorite podcast in Soccer We Trust.
I'm Jimmy Cream Cheese Crash Can Conrad Jr. Conrad, also known as Jim. I'm here with Charlie, Chuck Wagon, Zimmerman, Davies, and handsome Hollywood Heath Pearce. And we are less than 24 hours after the roster has been announced, and there were some big, giant snubs, omissions, whatever you want to say it, some big selections. And I think, guys, I want to start with just commending all the players that did make the team. It is a huge accomplishment. They're realizing their dreams, and I know it's going to be easy to kind of fall into the negative side of things, but I think that the positive side of all the sacrifice and hard work that these players have put in is a big deal. Now, I do want to say, Charlie, you weren't with us yesterday, so we didn't get that Rod Chuck Wagon emotion. I didn't know if you wanted to start by giving us your take on Ricardo Pepi and him not being included as our resident number 9.
I'm Shaq Moore, and I'm getting really rich.
All I'm going to say is we don't need 4 natural right backs.
We don't need 4 unnatural right backs, Charlie.
Period. But if you're talking about depth in this roster and versatility, we don't need 4 right backs. You have Serginho Dest, and if you need to take him off because he's not defending, you put on DeAndre Yedlin. You don't need Shaq Moore also. And I don't want to take anything away from Shaq Moore from earning his call-up, his first World Cup. Incredible, awesome, congrats. But then you also have Joe Scally, who's a natural right back, who you play as a left. So you're bringing 4. That for me is you're leaving off potential guys who can come off the bench and contribute in the attacking half, which is Tillman, Pifok, Pepi, right? Of those 3, naturally you can take one of those 3 to give you some sort of different look in the attacking half. If you go down a goal, if you need to go get a goal, if you're chasing the game, those, for me, those are the type of players that you need to bring into the game, because the defensive players, they can move, they can shift. Kellen Acosta can play right back, so Tyler Adams can play right back. So now you're just adding on, other players who are capable of playing right back. Weston McKennie can play right back if you needed to. And I'm looking at the other depth charts across the group. And in England, most of their options are coming in the midfield and the wingers, right? Phil Foden, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling, James Maddison, Jack Grealish. And then if you look at their 2 midfielders, Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, Jordan Henderson, and Calvin Phillips. I mean, that's where they're putting their meat. And I think we should have done the same. You could also add another center back because that position has been so up and down. So a player like Mark McKenzie, who has gotten in and out of camps, maybe hasn't had the best performance with the U.S. national team, but finally is coming into a groove with his club form. And I'll be the first one to say, you need to have your club form going well first before your national team form gets going, because you're in a rhythm, you're confident, you're going, and then you might have a couple cracks at the apple with the national team. I'll be a perfect example of that. It took me a while to finally know my value on the field and what I'm good at, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are at, so I could work on those with my club team. I finally get to a position where every time I stepped on the field, I felt I could make a difference. Whether it was goal scoring, which I thought I was always going to have chances on goal, but I was going to make center backs and back lines move and shift and open up space for other players. I'm going to work on the defensive side of the ball with my pressing, runs into the channels, hold up play. I knew I was going to add value. And I think when you're looking at this roster, we could add more players in the attacking half of the field who can give us different looks, because the World Cup, plan A, we always talk about plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, you will be covered. And I don't think we have enough cover.
Okay. So, and I agree with you. I don't know why we brought so many outside backs. And Heath, I'm gonna get your
no hot takes,
this.
James. These are just the real. This is
the real raw emotion.
Talk. There's no hot takes here. There's nothing hot about it. You tell me What team in the world has 6 right backs?
Well, England, but there are a couple of them are hurt. So I guess
Yeah,
that
that
counts.
made
they
that
don't.
job.
They
They
didn't.
made it
They didn't
easier, though.
sign 6. They didn't.
I get that.
No,
I
they
get
have
that.
couple
Yes.
injuries, yeah.
My point is, you're not bringing 6 on your 26-man roster.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing in some ways because of the things that you're mentioning, Chuck, where it gives us a luxury, a different player, and also this is a player who knows the system and has thrived in the system. Like I don't like.
Charlie's wearing his bucket hat because he was banging his head against the wall when the roster came out, is what Mitchell says.
Hey,
Charlie's got a big old bruise under
it. It's my new fleece bucket hat.
Charlie's got a big old bruise under his forehead when he threw his head through a plate glass window yesterday.
I still, even sitting with this for 24 hours, I still can't believe Ricardo Pepi is not in this team. I think that he ticks a lot of boxes. And here's a quote, Heath, that I want you to. Greg Berhalter said this about Ricardo Pepi. He's another tough one because of his body of work in qualifying. Watching him every week in Groningen, thinking about the opponents we have, we think that the other guys will be better suited. That's one. Okay. The next thing he says on U.S. men's national team strikers overall, Greg Berhalter says, we weren't comparing Haji right to Ricardo Pepi. We were comparing Haji to Jordi Pifok, the more physical type. We wanted one profile to be a physical presence. With Pepi, we're comparing him more to Jesus Ferreira.
No.
There's nothing.
These are quotes from Greg
I know,
Berhalter.
but we all know no.
Yeah.
Now you want emotion from me? I'll give you right now. That is a no.
We got him there, everybody.
Ricardo
He's triggered.
Pepi
He's
and Jesus
triggered.
Ferreira are
He's
nowhere
triggered.
near the same player. They don't offer the same thing.
I
We saw
get
that
it.
with FC Dallas. They're on the same
I
club
get it.
team. And
He's
they
going
were,
fishing.
Pepi said, guess
Got
what?
him.
This
Got
is
him.
my spot. The 9, I'm
hooked
playing
him
high.
on.
You can play underneath.
Yeah.
So how are we comparing those two players?
This is from our manager. That's what he's doing, which something had to have happened with Pepi. I don't get it. So listen, let's say it like this, everybody. Even if Ricardo Pepi,
Mitchell, you got me. You guys all got me.
if Ricardo Pepi, okay, say you don't expect him to play, wouldn't he? And you could leave one of your 17 right backs at home. You could bring Ricardo Pepi and you say, okay, I don't see him playing in this particular World Cup, but imagine the experience that he's going to get. That's going to help provide value for him if and when he becomes the guy for us in 2026. I still feel like there's
no
coaches
didn't even, but no coach is really doing that, right? He's worried about now. I just think he made a mistake. I
Because
think he
if
got
that was
old.
the case, Tillman would have gone.
Yeah.
Fair. I'm just saying that, like, I'm trying to build more value for Pepi because there's so much value.
Oh, I
there.
agree. But he deserved to be there. Period. Like, not even about whether you play him or not.
I get it.
The problem is we've pinned ourselves into a single striker system, and when you have a single striker system, you don't need 4 strikers there. And we haven't worked with anything else.
If you are in the game, if you are tied, or if you have the lead, great. What happens when you go down a goal? Are you sticking with one striker if it's not working? That's my point, because we've seen throughout qualifying
We only got
and friendlies.
Charlie. We only have a plan A, baby. What are you talking about? These plan
That's
A's
my
and
point.
plan C's? What are you talking about?
What about
I believe-
options?
I believe that the coaching staff got a little conservative here. And they got very conservative. When they looked at it, they didn't go with the strikers that they could go with gut instinct. They made that, like, look, Haji, get it. Like, same thing. Super stoked for him. Super happy for him. He's in form right now. You can't deny why he's been brought to a World Cup. But that shouldn't be in replace of anybody. That's the flyer. You're taking the flyer. The guy who hasn't been part of it, he's in form right now. But Ricardo Pepi is in better form than Josh Sargent. Again, Josh Sargent, congratulations. But Ricardo Pepi brings something different than him. Ricardo Pepi brings something different than Jesus Ferreira. And Ricardo Pepi has proven that consistently. Jesus Ferreira has been out of the playoffs now for a while. He wasn't in form. He didn't explode in the playoffs like we expected him to. And again, before anybody says it, Jesus Ferreira, congratulations. I get it. But when I look around the field, I see a staff that decided we didn't care about our left backs until the World Cup came. Now we want cover. And I don't want just one cover. I want 2 covers. I want to be able to put Serginho Dest there. And if I don't like that, I want to be able to put Joe Scally there. And now you've eaten up the whole right side of your back line. Shaq Moore, again, congratulations. Where did it come from? Where did it come from?
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't like you were moved by his play in Major League Soccer either. He wasn't tearing down the whole right side.
Well, there must have been something that happened in that MLS camp that changed their mind.
Yes.
About Jack Moore in particular.
Look at Roldan, Jordan Morris.
Those guys, once it went to 26, once it went to 26, those are the guys that
No, I think the camp went a long way because Gregg
clearly
had these guys. Yeah, it clearly did. Gregg had these guys to drill over 2 weeks, 2+ weeks.
So do you think Paul Arriola played himself out of the team because of that 2-week camp?
He had to have.
That would be so goddamn insane, but okay.
He would have had to.
He's been
Because there's no other explanation except for Jordan Morris outplayed. He was coming down to Jordan Morris and Arriola, and Jordan Morris outplayed him in this camp.
Well, and Jordan Morris has a little more left side to him, right? And again, it all goes back to my theory that they decided we need at least 2 in every position. And therefore, they couldn't get a second left back because Sam Vines was out.
Greg said that. We talked to him
that wasn't
months
a
ago.
thing
That's what he
before.
said. 2 at every position.
Yeah, but that wasn't a thing before. We weren't worried about that. Sam Vines came in because his team was top of the league and he was in form. Then he got injured, right? And then we didn't have another left back that has proven themselves. So now we brought Shaq Moore. Now we bring Joe Scally. Now we have Serginho Dest to be able to cover there. And it's like all of these stacked options to be the crutch for what could be on the left side of the field. Jordan Morris on the left midfield side. We have other guys that can play into those positions, but it's like he wanted to be able to look at a depth chart and go, okay, we're covered there. Where are the rest? Now, I will say this, and I'll say this again. I said this at the end of the show yesterday, Charlie, is that the upside is that we have the best imaginable team outside of Miles Robinson. We have the best imaginable team right now.
Without
that we
Ricardo
haven't had
Pepi, though.
without Ricardo Pepi. Yeah. Okay. Outside of Ricardo Pepi, that's a good shout. We have the best imaginable team in terms of players that we've been wanting to get on the field and together for a World Cup
and being healthy.
Being healthy. That's what I mean. That's by and large what I mean is we've had health issues. If you look at Reyna, you look at Aronson, you look at Weah, you look at McKinney, you look at Luca De La Torre, who again has had some solid performances, and the fans absolutely love this guy. We've got this core group back in. Christian Pulisic still there. You know, the striker thing, I'm very, 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 very concerned. But beyond that, there wasn't one of these other players that ended up, and I don't think they would have been not selected, but injured or out of the team where we've got to go, man, what could have been? I think we're pretty close to that outside of Ricardo Pepi, which I am absolutely
still in shock. Yeah, my mind's blown about it too. So Chuck, talk to us about now our plethora of options and the wing spots, because if Pulisic's got one side, and then you have what I assume Jesus Ferreira starts for you against Wales.
Yes, first game, Jesus Ferreira starting.
But if Ferreira comes, you know that he's going to try to drop into the pockets. That's what he likes to do, because we all think, well, I can't want to speak for you guys, but I think that he's better as a second striker playing off somebody else.
Who's going to argue that?
Okay, nobody. I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You guys called me out like, don't put words in my mouth a couple shows ago. So I feel like if
don't put words in my mouth.
Yeah,
if Ferreira starts, you need Weah on the field because he stretches the team. But if you have a Gio who I think likes to come back, or Brendan Aronson who likes to get the ball and then run at people, I don't think they're necessarily doing it above and beyond. So I think the connection of if Ferreira starts, Weah's got to start for me. But
this is Jim.
Go ahead.
This is where this is where I get angry, because in that same talk with Gregg Berhalter when he named the roster, he also mentioned that Tim Weah can play up there.
No, he didn't. I missed that part.
Yeah.
No,
he
didn't.
When he was giving options.
But guys, he also said Josh Sargent played against guys in the Premier League last year, and so it's going to be useful. These are that isn't.
He didn't say that.
Look,
he did.
I know
he was
Greg,
given options, and I'm saying, oh, he can play there. Why haven't we?
Why didn't we see him, Chuck?
Why? Because
God.
if you had Gio Reyna on the right and you have Weah up top, that's what we all been waiting for. Let's see how it works.
We had 6 friendlies. We couldn't see it for 45 minutes. That's all we asked for.
Thank you. But in looking how they're going to play that first game against Wales, I think Gio Reyna starts. And I think Weah is coming off the bench in that game. I think Brendan Aronson is coming off the bench in that game, given that
great subs, by the way. Great subs to have off the bench.
That's
phenomenal.
That's a problem in the team, though. I don't try to act like when Brendan Aronson, who's covering the most ground in the Premier League right now.
No, but you know his mentality.
But it doesn't matter.
He's not going to huff and puff.
Okay, what happens when you don't start Gio Reyna in a game?
That's different. That is.
But what I'm saying is this is the most depth we've had in the attack. But each of those players are uniquely different and change the way we play, right? We know how Gregg Berhalter ideally wants to play, and we saw that fail twice in the last window with the players that we have.
Wait. Tap the brakes. I thought I knew how he wanted to play, but he left a system guy at home in Ricardo Pepi to bring in Haji Wright, who hasn't like what?
He plays in the channels, though. And that to me signals you're playing differently.
Then call him in earlier and just get him some goddamn friendlies, man. Anyway, go ahead.
I think for England, Haji Wright will start up top. If I'm looking at that game and we're going to be more defensive and counter, that's not going to be the whole game, but if we want to get a result against England, that's how we're going to have to play.
I
If
think
you look at how England has played and where they've struggled, we're gonna take that blueprint and say, guys, Christian, shine, transition, counterattack, Weah, shine, transition, counterattack. And this is where Haji Wright has made his calling in Turkey.
I think that we approach the England game once we understand the result of Wales. I agree with you that there's probably they have an idea of who they want to start.
Team, yeah.
But I think that's going to have to change based on the result against Wales.
Shout out to Kiko and the YouTube
I just feel like if Ferreira starts, you got to play Weah, which means that Reina and Aronson, because it balances our team better. Then Reina and Aronson are super subs. And I don't, not that I want that. I want all those guys on the fields if we could, but we didn't try it. So
yeah, I mean,
how do we know what it looks like?
Hey, we want a double pivot, right? We want 2 defensive midfielders, one next to Tyler Adams, and I think
not against Wales. I don't.
No. We want a double.
Against England.
We do want a double pivot. In depending on like the system of play and when and where, right? You can't call any one of our other guys a 6. I get that, right? Because we're not going to play Acosta.
No, this is an 8.
Yeah, we're not going to play Acosta and Adams as the double pivot. Are you saying that?
We did a Nations League final. It looked great.
And we did it against Saudi Arabia
Adams,
too.
Played with McKennie.
Yeah.
You had Acosta and Adams against Saudi Arabia, our last friendly. My mind is still blown about that. My mind is still blown about that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what that looks like? Like, try something. Oh man, don't even. God, you triggered me that he said that. That he said that about Weah. That you can play him on top.
That's what I'm saying. I was
now
triggered,
I'm all over the place.
and I just let it loose right here.
You let it loose.
You guys are firing me up.
My composure.
I the emotion last show. I'm here today.
God.
Let's go.
Yeah, man.
You got me fired up. But,
okay.
Yeah,
do you think? Do you either of you think Pepi's absence can have an actual effect on whether this team does well or not? Do you think he's that capable or that good? I do.
This is where I'm gonna stop you. If Haji Wright can do the runs that Pepi could do, now it comes down to finishing and the hold up play and the defensive responsibilities that Pepi I think has mastered as of late. I mean, with checking back, starting attacks from winning it off of center backs and defensive midfielders checking back. If Haji Wright can do it, I have more confidence in Haji Wright being our starting striker, playing off the shoulders, because Jesus Ferreira's not going to do it. Josh Sargent.
Haji Wright ain't starting games though, man.
Josh Sargent.
Haji Wright is a different option. He's had all these chances
to
just bring him in and play him, and now all of a sudden, because he's in arguably the same form as he's been in for quite a while now, they go, we needed a profile like that. And
they did need a profile like that.
Well, I agree with you, but they brought him in and he didn't do anything in the national team, and there was just no like sort of follow up of being like, well, I'm gonna maybe tinker and give this guy another chance. Now you're going blind.
He hammered him in the media.
Yeah, I thought he was done. Well, and his body language is crap. To be honest with you, Haji Wright kind of didn't fit the profile. He wasn't pressing when the team pressed. He was kind of trying to figure it all out. Same way that we saw Malik Tillman at times, just sort of almost looking to where he fits into the equation. And I'm not saying his attitude, but it's more of like figuring it out, of maybe not even being there yet. And you're right, he hammered him. But now here he is being the profile that we are looking for that option, which I don't disagree with. We do need that profile. We've been arguing for that same case for PFOC of saying we need that profile for a while. But what I'm saying is that I don't see that profile being somebody that Gregg wants to start in the game.
I'll say maybe he needed that reality check of where he is and how hard he has to work to make it work with the U.S. national team on the international stage. So it really could have worked out to his benefit that he came in and didn't do well. He wasn't horrible, but he definitely did not impress. And getting hammered by Gregg Berhalter in the press, he didn't go back to Turkey and sulk and then turn it off. He only got better. So I think now he knows exactly what the expectations are, how the team plays, and that now I'd say throw him out there. If he's looking sharp in training, let him have a run. Especially, I think if Jesus Ferreira starts against Wales, which I anticipate that he will, and it doesn't take off, you got to make that switch quick.
So I thought about this last night. You know, just imagine me in a sad pose by a fire, just rubbing my chin, thinking about things. You know, and
We're
I
gonna
thought about
go
I thought
into
about our
child's
strikers.
pose now. And you're gonna lay down on your side and tuck into a little ball while this shower water rains over you.
It suck your thumb to get that safety. All right, so Jesus Ferreira, Josh Sargent, and Haji Wright are options at the number 9. If I'm Wales, if I'm England, if I'm Iran, do any of those strikers strike fear into my center backs? And that I'm just throwing that out there. Not to say that if you brought Pifok and or Ricardo Pepi, that the center backs would be changing their minds about anything. But I wonder what the other teams and how they try to break down our team. I'm trying to think from that perspective now a little bit because I don't think they fear us in that spot, which could be to our advantage.
Yes, and that's
because
fine.
I think they're more worried about our wingers because we have a lot of diversity in our attack and how they play. As we just talked, everybody's got a different skill set. They bring something. I think Yunus Musa breaking the lines is going to be a cause for concern for the other teams. Weston McKinney's a wild card because he picks and he's gotten better picking his spots when to join the attack, especially on set pieces.
Hey,
and then you got to watch for Destin Anthony Robinson, but I think you can also exploit those if they're not exploited. What?
Let me ask something, Charlie. Charlie, let me ask something. I need to heal. So let me ask this question. I'm gonna ask it to Charlie. My man Greg Berhalter said that Josh Sargent was a profile because he played against these guys in the Premier League last year and is playing against many of them in the championship. That he thinks that will be I don't remember the exact words, but basically an advantage of some kind.
Yep.
We're talking about Josh Sargent from the Premier League last year, a year ago, on the worst team in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Not getting a lot of minutes.
He wasn't, sorry, whoa. He wasn't playing in the Premier League. He was surviving and just doing sprints.
He was running.
He was running in the Premier League.
When he was getting time, he was running.
He
wasn't getting a ton of time because he had Timo Pukki and they were competing for the same spot. But do you agree with that? Do either of you agree with that? Or do you think that this is a matter of like the red light came on, somebody asked him the double-barreled question, and he was just like, I got to get out of this a certain way. And therefore, the easiest way out is to be like, this guy played against these guys and he's in that type of environment. Therefore, it's helpful. And I don't want to get into the like what happens behind closed doors. Because to me, that triggered me immediately because I was like, don't start this whole, but last year he played against those guys. And therefore, like, we're going to get him into our, like, then call him on the phone and say, hey, what do we do?
Yeah. No. That take that comment and no, that has nothing to do. But I'll flip it to Jim.
Hi.
On Wales roster,
you rang.
Yes.
Who strikes fear into you?
Well, I can
tell you, there's not one player for me that I'm worried about. Not one
for Wales.
For Wales, there's not one single player that I'm like, oh, we have to play a certain system, or we have to focus on this guy, or we have to have two players, kind of know where this player is or track him. Not one single player. It's about how we play and how we react within the game. Of course, we're not going to keep possession the entire game.
You don't think Gareth Bale is somebody you want to keep an eye on? The guy does have a knack of scoring big goals.
Do you think Gareth Bale can play over 60 minutes if he does start? Do you think he's...
Well, I think you roll him out there. Yeah, he's been saving his energy, his legs for these 3 games. First time they've qualified in 58 years. The guy's going to bring it. Like, they're all going to bring this energy.
I don't think he can play a full game and then expect to play 3 days later.
Wait, would we not want to start Josh Sargent then if we are playing against, by and large, a 50% championship?
Well, by that reason,
he really lit you up.
But I'm just saying, generally speaking, like if you are going to have the advantage, wouldn't you want to use that advantage? Or if you truly believe that, I mean, I guess one other player, Brennan Johnson, strikes a little bit of fear into me against our team. I think he's a good player. Whether
he's a good player, it's not striking fear,
but like not striking fear, but like that's true.
I think Kiefer Moore, he's 6'5" up top. I think that's a problem.
What strikes fear me for
if
Wales
is good for that particular.
Still not striking fear.
No,
I wouldn't say fear. What fears me is that Wales are a team. That's what I fear, and I don't feel like I think our squad has been through a lot. I think that we've come a long way, but I fear that unity-wise, Wales can have the system they're going to play. Say they're going to high press the U.S., right? And if it doesn't work, they will figure it out. Or that's my worry of like, can they put enough of lean on us that we can't figure it out, right? It's more of like that. So, but I wouldn't say any individual I fear from Wales, but I do fear that Wales have found ways to get performances with a team that is not feared, right? Yeah. They found a way to as a team get results. And the U.S.,
which is what we're going to have to do. But we have more individual brilliance than Wales does. And that's why we are a better team than Wales collectively when we are playing as one. But that's where I think we're all trying to figure out, is this current group going to play like a team and rely as a unit and not on one player? Now, I hope that we have those moments of individual brilliance, especially from a Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Yunus Musa. Those players have the ability to beat one players 1v1, beat two players in the dribble, and combine and have those moments. We say yes, but collectively they have to defend as a group and they have to attack as a group for us to succeed. I think if we do that well, we are better than Wales and we are better than Iran. That's not a question for me. But when I say striking fear into an opponent, Harry Kane checks that box. Raheem Sterling checks that box. Phil Foden checks that box. Bukayo Saka checks that box. Marcus Rashford.
You can just name the whole English team if that helps you.
But I'm saying they have every player. You would say, oh, I don't know how this is going to go.
But do you think Wales is looking at like outside of Christian Pulisic? Do you think Wales is looking at Gio Reyna as some sort of like, massive threat? I mean, you've got some guys that have played in big clubs their entire career, going like, yeah, but he's still young and he's still.
I would say we gotta watch out for him. He's a talented player. Strike fear. No, Christian Pulisic. I say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look at their back line. They have Ben Davies, Tottenham. I mean, he's kind of a part-time starter for Tottenham. I mean, he's a consistent player.
He's hard. Mistakes. He's prone to making mistakes.
But not someone you're saying, oh, he's a shut-down, lockdown defender. I mean, he's tough and he's good on set pieces, but no one that you're saying, hey, we can't get by this guy 1v1. And then you have Ben Kabongo playing at Swansea City, Chris Mempham playing at Bournemouth, and Joe Rodon playing at Rennes. I mean, they're all adequate defenders, but I would bet on our guys all day.
Yeah, obviously we got to show up, right? I mean, it comes down to the fine margins. And we've seen it in our World Cups in the past that if we get a little bit of that, you create your own luck. But if you get that luck to go your way, then we usually find a way to get through the group. But if we don't, then we don't. I don't know.
It just comes down to making sure the right guys are plugged in. Christian's always going to be at the left wing spot, but how does he play depends on the players he's playing with. If he doesn't feel that he has to do everything and come inside and take a million touches, then we're doing the right things. That means Yunus Musa is getting up and McKennie's getting up and they're supporting whoever is playing that striker role. I hope the 9, if it's Jesus Ferreira, does not check back like he's always used to. I'd like to see him staying high and stretching the field and playing off the defender's shoulders, finding those pockets to the left or the right or in between those the back line of Wales. That to me would say, okay, we got something going. And then if it's Gio Reyna, that he's on the ball, he's facing forward, he's connecting passes, that to me would say, all right, we're doing things right. But it's all about the right collection of players that, the puzzle has to set up properly.
Of course. Not only does the puzzle have to set up properly, I think what separates good players and good teams from great players and great teams is your ability to adapt to what the game is giving you and how quickly you can make those decisions. I don't know why I have Luka Modric in my mind. Okay, he plays for Real Madrid and Croatia. But when something's not on, he knows exactly where the second option is. And if that isn't on, he's just so cool to go to his third option. And it doesn't necessarily stop the flow and the rhythm of what his team is trying to do or how he's trying to have an impact.
I also think won a Ballon d'Or, though, to be fair.
He did. Zidane is another, obviously above and beyond.
Honestly, I think we should just bring in Ronaldo from Brazil.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, you guys know what I'm trying to say. You just give me a hard time. Is that is what I think is going to determine how much success we have in this tournament.
Are you guys starting Tim Ream then in that case of understanding what is happening? Because it looks like when we named the roster, we went with a lot more experience. People keep complaining about Roldan and Morris, and Ream seems to be one that everybody agrees with coming in. Ream is a little bit of the fact that we had a few players drop out with injuries, right? We know
I'm starting him.
But also now with what we got and who we're playing against, Tim Ream and the form that he's in as a captain of a Premier League squad makes a lot of sense. But is he your starter based on
my
who we
other
play, or is he your
options? My
starter?
other options are Aaron Long and
Cameron
Carter
Carter
Vickers that are coming off a bit of a sore knee.
who's not a left center back either. He's a right center
I'm
back.
going Tim Ream.
Good, because I would be the first one to tell you if we're trying to be high and aggressive, and Tim Ream can't play. But in this scenario where he has a partnership with Anthony Robinson built in, they know each other like the back of each other's hands, and the fact that he's playing every week, he's consistent, that Fulham is doing well, and he's the captain of that side. You talk about experience within this group down the spine. He's got to play. He's got to be your number one. However, we know this 2-week camp, Gregg Berhalter got to work with Aaron Long and Zimmerman together as a partnership.
No,
that
Charlie,
could
stop, Charlie.
I'm
No,
telling
we're not
you,
going to do it.
I'm
not
telling
gonna
you
do it.
that we
Listen, you
that
can
could
bring
be it.
every listen. We talked about this a little bit, and you weren't here, Charlie. But every coach has their favorites, and I think that you have to allow every coach to do that. And I think Aaron Long is definitely one of his favorites. But now it's getting to squeaky bum time, and we can't play around with your, like, you got to play the players that are going to be the best fit for us to actually have success. And
He brought experience too. He brought experience that we didn't expect. He could have brought Tillman instead of Roldan. He went with Roldan. He could have brought Jordan Morris versus Ariola. I get it, but you're bringing depth in a position and a guy who has a lot of experience in the national team at the professional level. Like the guys that we brought that we didn't think were coming increased our average age probably to not even being the youngest team in the World Cup anymore. Right, we brought veterans as opposed to a young player that's inexperienced, that's at the bottom of the roster that we all say could be a huge opportunity for Tillman, could be a huge opportunity for Ricardo Pepi. But he brought players that I think in the last minutes they said, "Hey, there's going to be some turbulence on this flight, and we're going to need some people that we can look dead in the eyes and know that that can help us weather this, whether on the field or off." By the way, that's the only way that I can process some of these things.
Yeah, like another player that I think of that has a high ceiling is Richie Ledesma at PSV. I mean,
I agree.
He's playing under Ruud van Nistelrooy. He was really getting a lot of playing time. He suffered an injury setback, but now he's still getting back into the mix. That's a player who has a high ceiling. You could throw him into the mix given his ceiling and his potential for 2026. But ultimately, he went with the guys, in my opinion, that if they're not playing, because you're depending on this young roster for most of them to be playing 80, 90 minutes a match and not having those issues, that I want a culture where everyone's happy and excited to be there and uplifting and supporting one another. And no one's going to be sitting there with a pouting and taking down that energy. He wants a straight positive environment in the locker room, and that's okay for
trust
me.
too.
I get it.
There's a lot.
I would want that too.
It's literally trust to me. That's what it is. Where he knows. When was the last time you saw Jordan Morris have a 3 performance? He might not give you a 9 or a 10 ever, but he's going to probably do more good than he does bad. Christian Roldan, same thing. I don't remember the last time he had a 3 performance for the national team. Now he doesn't stand out. He doesn't have the upside of a lot of these guys.
You don't want him to stand out. You want him just to be a hard worker.
I want to know when I put you in and I give you the 3 details, you're going to do those over and over and over again. And you're going to do them to a T. Yeah, and that's like at least one less thing to worry about if you're a coach. I don't agree. I'm not saying do I think Malik Tillman is better? Absolutely. But you don't know what day you're going to get Malik Tillman. We know he's one of the best players at Rangers right now. He's arguably their best player right now. But on any given day, and what he's shown on the national team so far, is that he's still got a lot of work to do to doing that consistently, to being the star that we know he's capable of.
Well, I want to let everybody know that if you want to get your favorite U.S. men's national team players' jersey, you should go head over to soccer.com and make sure you sign up for the Gold Club loyalty program, where a $5 membership will give someone up to 10% off of every order for life, everybody. So a shout out to soccer.com.
Soccer.com.
Head over there right now to make that happen. All right, we're going to take our first and only break of In Soccer We Trust. When we come back, we're going to talk about more of the good stuff. You know what's up. All right, we'll see you right after this.
Italy's greatest soccer.
Is there anything this man can't do?
Europe's most exciting title race.
And there's the goal.
The battle for the Scudetto is on. Stream every Serie match live, exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back, everybody, to In Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Heath Pearce. And we want to remind everyone to don't stop watching the beautiful game after the World Cup ends, because Paramount Plus has you covered. We're going to give you 50% off annual plans, baby. Make it happen. And it's going to happen between November 5th and December 31st. You got a lot of time to make this decision after the World Cup ends. You got a couple weeks there. Use the code all year, and you're going to get 50% off an annual plan to make sure you get the beautiful game all time, every time. There's just so much, right? Champions League, Europa League. You got Serie A and WSL.
Love it.
World Cup qualifier. It's on and on. Brazilian League, Argentinian League. It's fantastic. So this is a really great deal, and we want you to take advantage of it. The code is all year. So go to ParamountPlus.com and do that for us, please. That would be really cool. All right. So any big where do we want to go with this? I guess is probably the best way to say.
Let's go with the pecking order.
Pecking order in terms of what?
So if Matt Turner is your 1, who's number 2?
I'll go Sean Johnson.
Same.
I like Sean Johnson. I think he's a great shot stopper. I think he's shown that he can be clutch in big moments, and that's what you need at the highest level.
He's also got okay feet. He can pass. He's not. I mean,
as long as it doesn't go to the left foot. The left foot is for walking. That left foot is like just a pole.
I'm going to cut this out and send it to him. Look what Charlie said about you, Sean.
Hey, I used to have the same. I used to have the same problem. So
I still got the same problem. My right foot's for the gas pedal only, Jimmy. That's it. Dude. You know what I mean? I save that because I need to use that to get places with my car, but otherwise on the field, no chance.
Okay, all right. Then pecking order at right. Well, we have a lot of right backs, so this should be an interesting conversation.
Dest, Yedlin, Moore.
Okay. All right.
I'm saying Dest, Yedlin, Scally.
Oh.
Okay, I could agree with that too.
I don't know where Moore came from. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, he must have had a blind look. I know he's a good player. He's had a couple national team games.
Forgot Scally.
Yeah, Moore has had a couple games with the national team where you see some brilliance, right? Where you see he's good on the ball, he's good at getting forward, you see he's can cover ground, like you can see those types of things. So I don't want to undermine that. It's just more of like usually we see the surprise in that we saw Haji Wright, and for him to just decide that, oh, how about Shaq Moore? That makes sense. That to me is a little one. But I'm going with Scally at number 3 because I thought when he did come in, and I don't think he'll be a starter because of that depth, but he could come in at some point in the game, and he just seems. You know, especially when the game starts to settle down and open up, he's shown that he can do it. So okay,
I'll do left back then. Anthony Robinson, number 1. Anthony Robinson, number 2. Anthony Robinson, number 3. I just hope that he doesn't get hurt because
who's the backup? You think? Do you think it's Scally or do you think it's? I think that's why there's both of them because you can just rotate based on like, oh, we don't want to move Dest because he's been so good. We need to go with Scally.
I don't like Dest over there. I don't think he doesn't obviously shine as well. He cuts inside, comes to his right. Then he starts to run into the space of other guys.
Yeah, but if you had to in a pinch, I think that's the really only option.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of experience and being around and how, you know, and he won't bomb forward as much on the left side because he's got Christian sitting right in front of him. So I think it's a little bit harder for him to maybe find that space. So I guess Dest, but it's a coin flip between Dest and Scally, I'd say.
That's the weakest position in our group, in our 26 man, because there is no backup really. There's no definitive backup. If he goes down, there's not one player who can give you end line to end line service with your left foot.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
There's not one player.
And it seems like I should say that with Fulham, and one of the things that I was craving from him more consistently was hitting that deep cross. He doesn't have to always get to the end line to hit a good cross.
But you need your striker to be playing off the center back shoulders for that.
We don't have a striker, so.
Well, that's true because we left him at home. But we have.
Hey, Haji.
I'll give Haji.
I know.
Yeah,
okay. All right. But it was an easy joke and I took it. But
Andy, spot on.
Anthony Robinson, I think that I've seen him do it a few more times this season under Marco Silva and Fulham. So I'm hopeful that shows itself. I just think it makes him a little bit more unpredictable. Then you have to step out to him because if he got good at hitting that deep cross and people are aware of it and he was doing it successfully, then it forces their outside back to step to him, and that will give him the space to take. And that also gives him space to just blow right by the guy if he's coming out to pressure him too hard.
Who's your captain for the World Cup, guys?
Tyler Adams.
It better be Tyler Adams. It better not be. I better not see another player even getting a sniff of that captain's armband.
It's only Tyler Adams.
They're gonna keep it in a locked case at his locker in case anybody gets any crazy.
Don't
ideas,
even look at it, guys. That's Tyler Adams' armband. Don't look at it.
Okay, center backs. I think we're all in agreement that Tim Ream and Walker. Or if we're going pecking order, Walker 1.
Yep.
Ream
Ream
2.
2.
Oh, what? Hold on, real quick, guys. I do want to, Jimmy. We addressed it yesterday. You tweeted an apology to Tim Ream.
I did.
But what's changed? I get that he's captain. I get that his team's in form. I get that he's playing well. But he's been a career player in the Premier League or the Championship as a captain of a big club.
It's been different this year, though. It's been different.
Is it because of injury? Is it because of Is it because of Robinson that we're having this conversation?
Yes, it is.
Is it, you know,
if Chris Richards and Robinson are here,
well,
he's not there.
If we're looking at this all fairly, Long wouldn't be on the team. I mean, I don't think that he's done enough to warrant being in World Cup. I think there have been other options. So if you had a Miles Robinson and you had a Cameron Carter-Vickers and Chris Richards, I don't think Long makes the team. I would still bring Ream, given his current form. And there's a consistency in his game, Heath, where the maybe the big mistake that he would make.
5 center backs. Who else?
Yeah, I would leave off one of the right backs, and just like Charlie said, bring in the Mark McKenzie then, or you bring in that 5th one, because it isn't really settled who our starting center backs are. Yeah. So why not take the risk there as opposed to a spot?
Because full transparency, Chris Richards was climbing the depth charts of our national team pool, and he wasn't even playing. Yeah, because nobody was taking it, and nobody was stepping up, and nobody was like getting like coming into that position. Chris Richards, just by default, hasn't had a great national team game yet. Like where you're like, okay, we saw Walker Zimmerman own a couple games, and you go, that guy, okay, that's his.
Because he was playing in the Bundesliga,
but he's playing in the Bundesliga, but then was injured for half the year last year, and then this year is in an environment where he just kept on becoming like people are like Chris Richards, sure starter, because nobody else was willing to take that, and so it would still leave the conversation for a Tim Ream in that context had Richards still been healthy as well.
And also, looking at Long in the without whatever emotion Gregg has for him, you leave that part of it out, then I think that Tim Ream would be in the balance as well. Also, there's nobody out of our center backs. If you include Miles Robinson, who I don't think of as a great passer of the ball. I mean, he's okay, but I don't think of him as a great passer. No. Chris Richards doesn't really. I mean, he can, but it's not like he wows me. Whereas I think Tim Ream is clearly our best ball-playing center back outside of John Brooks, who was out of the equation very early on. So I don't know. I think Tim Ream would always be in that conversation, even with the injury. If you're looking at it and you're seeing how well he's been playing, and really that consistency for me. And I think the connection with Anthony Robinson is important, because I think one of our vulnerabilities in our team is that we have 2 outside backs and a back 4 that both like to get forward. And there has to be that discipline. And if Des goes, we can't have Anthony cheating, because he can sense that maybe something will pop up on the other side. He's got to stay true to that. And I think Tim Ream has that rapport with him on that week and day-to-day basis, training with Fulham, to hold him accountable and make sure that he comes back.
Oh,
because that's what Fulham's doing every week.
The amount of times I started to drift and you get the, oi!
Yeah, that's probably me. That's probably me yelling.
Where are you going, bud? Where are you going? Stop following the game. Tuck inside. Stand in front of the center forward.
Right.
Where are you going? The game's on. It's a corner on the other side. Where are you drifting for?
Yeah. If I'm a center back, I'm not letting my safety valve just disappear up the flank.
No.
Hey.
I think the midfield is pecking order is pretty straightforward. And I guess it comes down to strikers and wingers. Charlie, why don't you lead us on maybe the wingers in terms of pecking order if you want?
Yeah. Pulisic 1, Pulisic 2.
Here we go. You can't take my joke. I already said that.
No, I know. And then I go Jordan Morris 3. So I think,
Here we go.
There we go.
Trying to trigger everybody.
Yeah.
I remember real quick on this story, Charlie, before you get through this. I remember around 2010, they were putting out like depth charts for the 2010 World Cup. And I saw a blog post of somebody that just put out 10 traffic cones and Landon Donovan as their lineup. No, I was done. And it was the tall pylons, that you can do in like the software. And it was and they wrote traffic cone. And then it was Landon Donovan. I don't know. I thought that was rich. At least we were all going down together.
When was that? When was that for?
I think it was around the 2010. Definitely around the 2010 cycle. It was probably made. I think Landon made it, but
that's great.
Okay, I bet that person felt stupid after.
I know.
But Charlie, give me your.
No, he was Ghanaian.
And then I'm going to go to the striker position. I think Ferreira is your 1.
Okay.
I think Sargent is your 2, and I think Haji Wright is your 3. And then in the right wing position, Reina is your 1, Weah is your 2, and Aronson is your 3.
Hot diggity dog. Who did you say was the 2?
But Aronson is also your number 2 behind Musa or McKennie.
Or Pulisic. Who's behind Pulisic then on the left?
I said
Aronson can play
Jordan
over there.
Morris.
You saying
said
Morris?
J-Mo.
You're okay. I think J-Mo is a final 20 guy, but as a starter, I don't see it. I would still go with
he's
like
not
an
a starter.
Not as
Aronson.
a starter.
No, but I'm saying if
Like in terms of
Pulisic is out,
Pulisic's out. No, you're going to get Aronson start over there.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Or Reyna.
Or Reyna.
Play on that
but
left
we're
side.
saying that J-Mo is like first off the bench depth chart left midfield.
Yes.
But
No,
if
I'm not
Pulisic
saying
is
that.
out, you're not.
Like
I would say the 20-30. I'd give J-Mo that.
Like given that let's say you got.
I think that we'll go to the other guys first. Sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying like ideally you have Musa, Reyna, Pulisic, Weah, Aronson on the pitch together, but we all know that's probably not going to happen. Now, if let's say Reyna's starting and he comes off, so Weah goes on, Aronson comes on for Musa or McKennie, and you need that sub for Pulisic, that's when Morris comes on, when those guys are exhausted.
No,
Because Sargent can't play the wing, and we've seen it. He's not a winger. He's just not a winger. So that can't be an option. He thrives when he is playing central and he's a striker and he's playing off the defender's shoulders. That's his best position. That's where he scores goals. As soon as Norwich City moved him back to the wing and to put Timu Pukki in that position, he stopped scoring. And then he got injured because of all the work he has to do up and down the right flank or the left flank. So for me, that's not an option for him. And it's Reyna, Weah, Aronson. Though you're trying to get them on the pitch. It's going to be crazy to think that Weah and Aronson are going to be on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. It's a crazy thought. I'm of the mindset with these guys that it's hard for me to imagine. Again, I go back to what Jimmy said earlier, which is I thought I knew how Gregg Berhalter wanted to play. And I think we do know how Gregg Berhalter wants to play, but he is coming to the harsh realities of like, this is where we're at in our development of what we can do that are going to get us out of the group stages. This is not about, the Jurgen Klinsmann era of like, I'd rather lose than play ugly type of thing. I think this is very clear of where we're going to, or at least somewhat clear of what doesn't work as opposed to what does work. I'll start there. But if we are going to press, if we are going to at any point and anywhere in the tournament against any team decide that we are going to be a pressing team that dictates that and tries to win the ball up the field, I can't imagine a world where Aronson isn't starting.
Yeah, I agree. He brings a lot. I mean,
you could say the same thing though as Tim Ream starting. Like you can't see him starting if that's the case.
Yeah.
Of high press, being aggressive, high line. I'd say Tim Ream being in that position, you're exposing him.
Right.
Because in all the systems that press, the Gegen press is the most popular one. The left back has to get high. That means that left central defender has to cover that space and also cover the space in behind. And if you're looking at England or even Wales, if Gareth Bale played it, even though Gareth Bale isn't making those runs anymore, but Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane love that space.
Yeah. Hey, let me just Def Kiss just will not stop talking about me saying Pepi and attitude. I don't remember. Did I say something about Pepi having an attitude, Jimmy? Yesterday?
I feel like you've always been Ricardo Pepi's number one stand, so I don't know. I think we maybe alluded to the fact.
Def Kiss, get him. Go ahead. Let him know where it is.
Maybe you said something with regard to, I don't know why else he would not be in unless there was some type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, and we've talked about before that people said that his training, he wasn't great at training and things like that when he first got to Germany in terms of his attitude and commitment to the training, things like that. But he's in form right now. And I still think that pound for pound or tool for tool or skill set for skill set, he should be on this roster based on form, based on what he brings. But I don't think it's anything about his attitude. Yes, we talked about, are there guys that wouldn't accept a role of being a non-starter? I don't think that's him unless that took place with him in camp, last camp, right? When everybody had a bad camp. And I don't know if that's the case, but I do know that that it's not, I can't speculate anything on his attitude or what happens in places that I'm not. So.
Wow, Def Kiss coming at you, but you had your chance.
It was like 15 messages, so I was like, eventually,
you got to address it. You got to address it.
Yeah,
now you know how to get our attention.
Well done, Heath. Address
it. Okay. So Wales dropped their roster. No real big surprises there, and according to Chuck Wagon, there is nobody to fear on that team. And then we have England's.
Nope.
They dropped their roster. and they have 3 right backs, and Ben White can play 4. We got Harry Maguire in there, everybody. I think that bodes well, even though he usually plays
Harry Maguire.
Midfielders, interesting. You got Jude Bellingham, Conor Gallagher, Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice. Jordan Henderson feels, I don't know if he feels like he's past it, but when I talk to my British friends, they're like, I don't know why Jordan Henderson was involved. Calvin Phillips coming off an injury. Conor Gallagher, I think, was a big surprise for some people, but we all know it's probably going to be Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham kind of holding it down in front of the back line anyway. And Jude Bellingham is incredible. Forwards, though, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, James Maddison.
Absolutely stacked.
Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling, Callum Wilson. Newcastle's Callum Wilson. So no Jadon Sancho, no Ivan Toney, who's been doing well for Brentford. So they left a couple guys that were also in good form. Callum Wilson is as well. And what's interesting is at the center back spot, they could have taken Fikayo Tomori, who's been excellent for AC Milan. And they decided to kind of go with the guys that they always go with, which is Harry Maguire and John Stones and Connor Cody and Eric Dyer. And that is pretty shocking for me that Tomori has been playing better than some of those guys, but yet Gareth Southgate went with his kind of tried and true, which I think is a mistake, but maybe that's something. Is there any areas of that? I mean, if Maguire starts, low-hanging fruit to say we should go right at him, but we got to get the ball to our number 9 to actually, or our wingers to actually have an impact on taking advantage of Harry Maguire out on the field. Heath, you go first.
Yeah, I again think about the fact that we've got a 1-striker system and we struggle to advance the ball and keep our strikers engaged over 90 minutes. They don't get a lot of touches. And so, like Charlie said, you're going to need somebody that can run the channels, willing to run route 1 that pulls the team back further into their box, allows you to get the ball in the corner, bring it back, and allow your team to come up underneath and maybe get some possession there. Again, it's fluid, right? They might come out completely different than what we expect. That's sort of the whole point of the mystery of how teams are going to approach each other, and based on, again, what the results were in the prior game on how they're going to grind out or play more openly in the second game. But when I think about England, they seemed like they've brought a mix of grit and as well as skill players, right? Like you say, you're bringing some Callum Wilson. You know, that's a fighter. That's a quality player, but a fighter. He's not Jadon Sancho, but he's a different type of player in terms of what he's going to bring to the locker room, to the team, on the field, and when you put him in and what circumstances. And so it's like they built out a pretty well-rounded roster as well.
Tammy Abraham.
That's right. No, Tammy Abraham. Yeah.
Dang.
There's a couple snubs for sure. Tammy Abraham, Jadon Sancho.
I mean, for England, though, it's always going to be, it's the same thing, right? Every team's going to have a few of the shock omissions, a few shock submissions.
It's you need to have the guys who are going to be supporting and rallying, the group, given that they're not playing. Maybe there's some players that should be in that squad, but their attitude is not going to be great if they're not playing or they're not starting. And so how can you take that knowing that that'll take away from the group? You look at France. They said 26. We'll go 25. We're not going to go.
Not insane.
Was it ever hard for either of you? And be honest here for a second. Mm-hmm. Not starting, because the story for me, again, we know my battles with Johnny Bornstein for everything. Johnny Bornstein, when he was on the bench, always came in. When I was on the bench, I never came in. And there were times that I was not in games where you're kind of like boiling because you want to be on the field, you want to help, you want to contribute. And there's that thin line between channeling that and knowing that you want to do more, you want to contribute more, and just being a dick, right? Of being like, I'm going to make a scene, or I am going to go out of my way so people feel my energy. It's like you said, Jimmy, when you were in the elevator with Casey Keller and you're looking for a little bit of a hug, there's also the reverse to that where you're like huffing and puffing and like kind of blaming everybody around you. And that can be toxic in a locker room. And this isn't a single camp and you go back. This is a month. These guys are together. And one little poison chalice can poison everybody in terms of their belief for or against the coach, how you rally, who are the ones that people go to for an honest conversation. Did either of you feel
influence,
that?
Though. It's always the person who's not playing that has influence, though, that has had a history of success, and all of a sudden they're not playing. And how do they take that? I'll be honest. Anytime I was on the bench, I was pissed off. Mm-hmm. I never thought I should be on the bench. But if I was, and probably a good example of me being in, great form, the best form of my career in 2008, up to that point, playing at the Olympics, and the U.S. decides to bring Brian McBride and then Freddie Adu, was playing alongside him as the 2 strikers in a 4-4-2 system, and Josie and I are on the bench, I was like, how am I on the bench? I am fit. I'm fast. I'm scoring goals. I'm playing in Europe. But I took it, and all you could do is be supportive and work my butt off. And that's what I did. And I had to wait for a chance. And finally I got an opportunity to go on against Nigeria. And I showed, hey, I should have been playing. And had I been playing, I think we would have got out of this damn group. But that's all you can do. I was never the guy that's saying, I'm gonna suck the life out of this locker room. I was always
Heath. I'm pretty sure Charlie's saying it. He's saying it now. Charlie does not like Freddie Adu. That's all I'm picking up from that statement. I don't know what anybody else is saying. That's all I'm
man.
hearing.
Hey,
Yeah,
I do remember the Brian McBride thing because again, we've talked about this before, but he hadn't played in a long time. Like I think it was months since he had played his last match when he came into that thing, like in terms of like match fitness, and he got that start over Charlie. I feel for that, but it is a hard thing to constantly have that perspective, and hopefully people have a network around them that help them to keep that perspective to be a good teammate. But Charlie, we talked about this yesterday too, and Jimmy, I want your take on it also, but about how like Bob Bradley was curious why I was sitting at so many different meal tables. And I think you had mentioned something like that as well, of having a chat with him at some point. He was always just like, why, you're over there and then you're with this group and you're with that group. And it was like, he wanted me to not have, like he wanted me to have like my tribe, like, and that was it, and I found that to be weird. But if you think about like, if somebody doesn't trust me and they think that I'm going in and like, lighting little fires, I don't know what the meaning of that.
I love sitting with different groups.
Yeah, that's what I did. I loved it. Yeah, I didn't necessarily have a, I guess
there was 3 groups. There was 3
Yeah.
tribes.
Yeah.
And you had the 3 tribes, and I sat with 3, but mostly the 2 tribes.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Jimmy, what about you in terms
I
of
don't
like
want to get
being
into
on the
the
bench?
okay, no, I don't want to
let's not
get into
get
the
into
insecurity of a
Let's
national team coach. That was like
Yeah.
blows my mind
Yeah.
how insecure a certain coach was. But
what about you for like being on the bench? Was there ever a struggle? Because you were always a good leader, a good captain, but like, you can't tell me that your smile on your face when you watch somebody else getting that chance to steal your spot. Even thinking about the 2010 cycle, right? Where it was sort of in your control up till red card against Honduras and the circumstance you've talked about of like with you having a baby and those types of things. Like, have you had that moment where you just like,
yeah, of course. Yo, I was pissed. I in some ways, I didn't take advantage of the opportunities that Bob Bradley gave me.
Right.
And he gave me plenty. He made me captain 4 or 5 times, and I'll always be in debt to him for that honor. It's an incredible honor to captain your country. I just don't think I was playing in the right way for him. This is kind of getting into the weeds about the psychological aspect of the game. But I felt like when I stepped on the field playing for Bob, that I was trying to do what I thought he wanted me to do, as opposed to actually just playing the game that was in front of me, which is I felt a lot more relaxed and maybe a little bit more trusted from Bruce than I did when Bob was my coach. Because I didn't really, and I think that's just part of his style. Neither good nor bad. It's just part of his style. And some players do respond to that. And I just wasn't one of those players. And I always felt like I was walking on eggshells. And I don't think that got the best out of me and I kick myself because I felt like I was old enough and had been around enough coaches to know what that looked like and how to manage it. And I still just couldn't get out of my own way. And obviously a couple plays didn't go the direction that I would have preferred. And obviously he suffered a severe concussion during my time with the Gold Cup. And had I seen that one out and played well in that tournament, maybe it's different. There's all these little things that you can,
You wouldn't have taken a 5-0 L in the final.
That's just like you guys, if you would have started in the Olympics, then you would have got out of the group. I feel the same way that if I had been playing in that game where we lost to Mexico 5-0 in the 2009 Gold Cup final, then maybe the result would have been different. Now you look at that game and the center back that started over me ended up going to a World Cup. He's got that 5-0 L on his record. I don't have that, and so you start to look at these little things and you compare and contrast.
So does Jay Heaps.
Jay Heaps, got to raise the roof for Jay Heaps.
You would drive yourself mad if you always went into comparisons and I know this guy got this and this, would be it's a sick world.
It is, and it's not a good. It's a downward spiral ultimately.
Yes, it's a negative way to kind of look at things, and I think us 3 always had a positive perspective, and I think that's why we have a lot of friends after we're done playing because you understood the game, and if it didn't go your way, you knew how to react. You weren't trying to pull people down and talk trash. I think it's ultimately if you have good guys in the locker room and good leadership, you're going to see less and less of that.
Mhm.
All right, final thoughts. We are at the end of this episode of In Soccer We Trust, and we appreciate everybody that's still hanging out with us, whether you're watching or listening. Make sure you drop us a follow on Twitter at ISWTpod. Heath, I'll come to you. Final thoughts for today's show as we deal with the shock and aftermath of this U.S. men's national team roster drop.
I'm going to propose a new name for Chuck. Sir Charles Run DMC Davies. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Oh, one of the guys is McDaniels. It could be McDavies, DMC McDavies, dude.
That's
like
it. That's a good shout. Yeah, we're going to keep adding nicknames. I feel like I'm in the lead with nicknames. You guys need to catch up a little bit. All right, Charlie, final thoughts?
Final thought. I love the idea of 6 right backs in the 26-man roster. But
don't knock it till you try it, Charlie. No. Don't knock it till you try it,
I think we have the core, the players that we need to succeed are here in this roster. So we need Pulisic, McKennie, Musa, Adams, Reyna, that midfield tier with those wingers to be exceptional for us to do well in this tournament. Our midfield is our heart. It's our best part of our 26-man roster. McKennie, Musa, and Adams. You can throw Reyna in there. You could throw Aronson in there. We have the depth in the midfield, so I'm pumped about that. And ultimately, we're going to live or die by our midfield.
Yeah, I think that's
and shout out to my YouTube fam.
Hey,
I can't correct with the outfit today, so appreciate
Speaking
it.
of outfits, either of you guys gotten the U.S. soccer collabs sent to you? Who's got the plug? Charlie, you got the plug.
I don't.
No, I have not.
I think because we slammed the jerseys, Heath, you and I are.
I didn't get.
Charlie
one
didn't slam
US
it completely.
Yeah. Charlie liked the blue one. Remember?
I like the blue one.
Hey, Charlie said the white one needed work.
Yeah.
and I still didn't get sent the blue one. So
okay, that's fair.
All right.
We'll
My final thought: we're going to come back to you again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, because we have another weekend of games in the club scene. So now we're just hoping that nobody gets injured, and maybe that will solve some of the problems. Maybe somebody gets hurt, and Ricardo Pepi's back in, and all we're crying and whining just goes away anyway, and he's out there running around. I don't know. I don't want anybody to get hurt, of course. They're so close to the finish line of representing our country at the highest level, so we don't want that. But yes, we'll be back with you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, if you want to join us live. If not, you can listen anytime you want on any podcast platform of your choice. So on behalf of producer Des, producer Alex, Charlie Chuck Wagon, Davies, Hollywood Heath Pearce, I'm Jimmy, Conrad, Conrad, also known as Jim. And we will see you next time. Thank you for listening and watching In Soccer We Trust. Later.